Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Okay, we've got more information about the Grim Forest. We've got the gear that you're going to earn. We've got the relics you're going to be able to get. We've also got a really cool kind of like graphic around how the game mode's actually going to work. That's for me is the most interesting part. So I guess we'll start with the set, the gear that you can earn, and then we'll move on to what it's going to be about. So a variable equipment set. Again, this is going to be one of those 9 pieces that you can get, similar to Stone Skin or Protection Set, all of those newer ones, really. So you can earn a bunch of HP, resistance, and speed. But most importantly, it's these guard stacks, right? So the actual stats for the set, I think, is pretty mid. Like 40 resistance, you might as well say 0 resistance. It doesn't do anything unless you've got a lot. Okay, so 40 resistance is kind of like nothing. It's a wasted stat here. Good amount of HP and a good amount of speed. Now, if we think about a speed set, if you got like 3 speed sets equipped, you've got like 36%. So it's not far off having like a full set of speed, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's these guard stacks which are worth going over. So let me just get to the gear set here. So it's called Mercurial. So you get some resistance at first. It would be great if this first stat was some speed, honestly, but it's not. It's resistance, which is the worst stat. But yeah, basically at 3-piece, at 5-piece, and then at 8-piece, you get your speed boosts. So you do really want those 8 pieces at least to be able to get a decent amount of speed out the set. Or you could be going 3 pieces and getting a good amount of HP and some speed, which is not bad as well. You know, you can end up having like a 3-piece just with the accessories, and that could be a good option. But where it gets interested in is this kind of like extra mechanic. So we got here, grants the wearer 1 stack at the start of the round if you've got 4 pieces. Each stack blocks all incoming damage and any associated effects. So anything like drop defense, decrease attack, stuns, anything like that, it's just going to block it with 1 stack. With 2 stacks, you're basically doing it, but you can take 2 turns. And then with 3 stacks, it says each stack blocks all incoming damage and effects. Also places total guard stack at the start of this champion's turn. And if they have no total guard stacks, also places total guard stack at the start of the turn if they have no stacks. So it almost like rejuvenates getting this buff back, which is pretty mental. In terms of the total guard buff, looks like this kind of like fiery dude. Total guard buff will block any single instance of damage and all status effects a champion receives from a skill. A champion can receive multiple stacks of the total guard buff. Each stack will block a single instance. It will also block any associated effects such as debuffs, incoming, guaranteed, and irresistible debuffs. Blocks those as well. Any destroy max HP, any equalize HP, any debuff spreads. It's pretty much anything, honestly. Any instant activation, burns, poisons, polymorph. As long as a champion has got at least 1 total guard stack, they will be immune to all negative stuff, except increased cooldowns. So there's no turn meter stuff can happen. It's literally just if someone can lock out skills, they basically come back into the meta. So that's interesting. So, you know, like your Yumiko's, Warlords, etc., they might come back into the meta because of this set. A champion will lose a stack when they would take damage from a skill. So it would decrease the stack. This also includes damage taken via ally protection. So you could lose all your stacks in one go. Reflect damage as well. A champion will not lose a stack of total guard when they take damage from masteries. Okay. If a champion is under both total guard and block damage when they receive damage from an enemy skill, they will still lose a stack. What I'm not sure is if a champion takes a turn, do they lose a stack? Is it just like a buff that counts down like normal? Or is it only a buff that loses stacks when something happens to you? All bosses ignore total guards. It's purely a PvP thing. Yeah, I think it reads to me like it won't cool down unless you take damage. That's the way it reads. But I might be wrong. It might literally be a case of you take a turn and then it's gone. So that's an interesting one. But definitely a pretty OP like ability from the set. Let's talk about a couple of the mechanics that I've seen little infographics for. So we've got here just something about the Grim Forest and how it's going to look. So sometimes you can move through these areas undeterred. Sometimes there's an ambush, and sometimes you can find treasure. These stages contain various enemies, so with the question mark, from waves of lower tier champions to mythical bosses. So it could literally be anything. You don't know what you're fighting, which is pretty interesting. This is the one that I'm most interested about, honestly. So the Grim Forest squad. So before you venture into Grim Forest, you must fill 2 team decks with your best champions to create a squad. Every battle in this game mode will begin by drawing random champions from these decks. You can only build your team to take on a specific stage from their number. So you've got Team 1 and Team 2. You're allowed 10 champions in each of the decks that you build. And you need to build decks that can deal with, or you need to put champions in that can deal with any number of threats, because you're going to get random picks from those teams. That's what it sounds like. So, and it's even harder for hard mode because it's 20 champs that it can pull from. So imagine if suddenly it just pulls 4 supports or 4 out-and-out nukers, but you've got no way of like getting them to actually go. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And it feels like it could be really fun, actually. This feels like it could be really cool. The other thing, which I wanted to show you was the relics that you could earn. So let's go through them one by one. So let's go through the rares first. We've got here the first rare, the Steel-Eyed Cutter. 20% chance to ignore 5% of the enemy's defense, which goes up. So the chance to ignore it goes up, but the 5% stays the same. Pretty decent for a rare. We've then got the Hoarder's Cauldron. 20% chance to ignore 10% of the enemy's resistance when applying debuffs. Kind of like not bad, I guess, for early game if you are struggling with accuracy and stuff like that, to make sure you get stuff away, but will rarely be used after that. We've got the epic one here, Compass of Anaxia. Whenever the wearer is under a crowd control debuff, all turn meter effects increase the turn meter by an additional 20, but goes up to 100%. So if you're under a stun or something like that, and you would get like I don't know, an Arbiter turn meter boost, you could get it up to 100% stronger. So it doesn't mean you're gaining 100% turn meter. It's just a stronger turn meter feel. Pretty good, but not crazy, actually, unless you get really high level of it. Revolting Seedling, an epic one here. Whenever the wearer receives damage, has a 20%, and that goes up to, what, 30, 40, 50% chance to heal themselves by 20% of the damage that they take. Pretty interesting. Let's look at the legendary ones. Soulmar Crystal. Once per round, wearer has 50, goes up to 100% chance of activating instant turn when 1 or more allies are killed. That's actually very, very strong. Really strong. Then we've got the Spore Burst Rod. So whenever the wearer places poison or bombs, has a 10%, goes up to 20, 35% chance of placing a second debuff for 2 turns. Only counts debuffs placed by active skills. So you can get extra poisons or bombs out there. So just the mythical ones to go. Coronet of Gloom. When all the wearer's allies are dead, places block damage on the wearer for 1 turn, and then has a 10, grows up to 20, 35% chance of placing this buff when a single ally dies. I don't feel like that's crazy. Is that crazy? For a mythical, when all the wearer's allies are dead, they get block damage for a turn. I guess it's like giving them a Ugo style buff to make sure that you get to like a revive or something like that. So yeah, I guess it could be crazy, especially if you place them correctly in the team. So your reviver basically can't be killed. I wonder if there's a cooldown on it at all. If there's no cooldown on it, then that could be totally broken. And then the other mythical one here is the Lens of Intangibility. The wearer ignores 10% of a target's defense. At the start of a round, places a perfect veil on the wearer for 2 turns. While under veil, perfect veil, wearer ignores an additional 5% defense. And then you can grow the ignore defense up to, what's this, like 9, number 15. So you can get 25% ignore defense. At the start of the round, you hide yourself and take less damage. And whilst you're under it, you ignore another 5% ignore defense. Pretty strong, pretty strong. They also dropped this other kind of like little piece here today. Speedrun. Face all bosses at once. Take your time. Defeat them one by one. So it says here, when presented with a battle against 5 mighty foes, will you rise to the challenge and face them head on, or will you deploy all your guile to divide and conquer? There is no right or wrong answer. The path is yours to choose. Again, I don't know exactly what this means in terms of how we deal with the content, but it's really interesting, right? Just if you're interested, I've done a update video for GODFORGE today. You can go and check it out on the Fateless YouTube channel, where we talk about PvP and the tower mode and how the devs coming along, the development's coming along. So I'll link to that down below. But yeah, let me know what you think. Is the Grim Forest something you're excited about? Definitely feels like it's a cool mode to me. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.